Hello, my name is Jeff, and this is the highly anticipated 2025 Toyota 4Runner Trailhunter, which makes its debut here for the new 6th generation 4Runner. Now, disclaimer, this particular truck is actually a pre-production prototype, meaning some things you see may be subject to change. And I know that this truck in particular is actually missing some things that will make their way onto the production models. Now, getting back to it, the Trailhunter actually shares the top trim spot for the new 4Runner with the TRD Pro. They even have the same starting price of $66,900. And what you get for that is essentially a fully loaded 4Runner that's ready to go off-roading out of the box, but you can still option it with some available Toyota accessories. The main difference, however, is that the TRD Pro features Toyota's classic off-roader recipe, whereas the Trailhunter takes a different approach and actually uses aftermarket accessories that Toyota enthusiasts who are into off-roading and overlanding will be familiar with, brands like Old Man Emu. And today I'll show you everything that the new Trailhunter has to offer. The new 4Runner Trailhunter maintains the classic 4Runner silhouette, but now features significantly more muscular styling, emphasized by the over fenders, which add 1.5 inches of width to accommodate a wider track and the incredible off-road upgrades. The Trailhunter features a phenomenal factory lighting package which falls just shy of the sun in lumens, with LED taillights and headlights with different Trailhunter logos in each, a Heritage Toyota grille with an integrated 20-inch LED light bar, and Rigid Industries white and amber color switching LED fog lights. The Trailhunter also features a high cold air intake which sounds incredible both on the interior and exterior while driving, with intake and turbo noise. It also features an ARB roof rack, frame-mounted steel rock rails, high-clearance front bumper, hands-free power rear hatch with a power window, and 18-inch bronze-finished alloy wheels with 33-inch Toyo tires. Underneath, the Trailhunter features 10.1 inches of ground clearance with steel underbody protection, including a front skid plate, transfer case protector, rear differential protector, and a composite fuel tank protector. The exciting Trailhunter-specific upgrades also include double wishbone front suspension with Old Man Emu shocks with in-stop control and rear piggyback reservoirs. In the rear is a multi-link suspension with coil springs and a stabilizer bar. The Trailhunter also features a stabilizer disconnect mechanism which improves articulation off-road. Under the hood, the Trailhunter is equipped with the iForce Max engine, just like the TRD Pro. And I know not everyone is hyped about the new turbocharged 4-cylinders in the current Toyota lineup, but if you compare the iForce Max motor to the outgoing V6, we are talking significantly more power and efficiency. Specifically 56 more horsepower and 187 more pound-feet of torque, and 800 pounds more towing capacity. The iForce Max engine is a turbocharged 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine with a hybrid system, producing a combined 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque, paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission and 2-speed electronically controlled transfer case for 4-wheel drive, along with an electronically controlled locking rear differential. The Trailhunter weighs around 5,500 pounds, that's 1,000 pounds more than the base SR5 4Runner, and achieves a 0 to 60 time in a respectable 6.7 seconds, while featuring a 5,800 pound towing capacity. As for fuel economy, it's not bad all things considered, and a huge improvement over the previous generation, featuring an EPA-rated 23 miles per gallon city, 24 miles per gallon highway, and 23 miles per gallon combined. And given that this has a 19-gallon fuel tank, we're talking a combined 437 miles of range per tank. Next, let's move on to the interior, which features a unique interior finish in what Toyota calls mineral for the Trailhunter, and it features these bright accents which make it feel more rugged and off-roady. And you get a total of seating for 5. The new 4Runner can get seating up to 7, but for the Trailhunter trim, it's going to be limited to just 5 people. I want to show you 2 really cool things about the 4Runner. The first one is right here. It's kind of a gimmick. You can pop this out, and it is in fact an LED light. It has multiple different settings, including
sort of night setting, and it even has these hangers, which can be helpful for anything to do with camping or needing to repair your vehicle while off-roading. Now, unfortunately, you only get one for the driver's side. Would have liked to see them do this on both sides, and I have a feeling people are going to lose this pretty quickly. The next thing I want to show you is up here, and this is a feature that's found in other Toyota models. This is actually a Bluetooth JBL speaker. You can pop it out and use it just like you would any other Bluetooth speaker, but you don't want to lose this one as it's part of your car's sound system. So you want to make sure you put that one back whenever you're not using it. So that's some cool quirks, but let me show you the back. So now I'm here in the back seat, and it's not the roomiest. As you can see here, my knees are actually in the back of the seat with it set up for me, and I am 6 foot even for reference, but I do have plenty of headroom back here. So I could sit back here for a longer period of time if I had to, but I really wouldn't suggest fitting anybody over 6 foot here in the back. That being said, there are some nice luxuries. They get their own light here in the back. They get more of that continuing mineral theme. I love the way the seats are finished as well, and of course, their own fold down section if they need it. And then here in the front, they do get their own vents to say nice and cool or warm, along with their USB chargers and auxiliary power port. Moving back up to the front, if we go ahead and turn it on, our seat automatically moves forward to make it easier to get in and out of your Trailhunter. And as you can see here, there's a lot of aspects in here that are going to feel very familiar with other items in the Toyota lineup. So you may see some things already that you recognize, and some things which were first introduced in the new Tundra that are still being used on a lot of the other Toyota models. One of the best features perhaps is going to be actually what's right here in the middle, and that is Toyota's infotainment system. This is a massive 14-inch display here in the front with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity, all that stuff. But I think Toyota has one of the best systems in the game right now. It's incredibly simple, but still very intuitive and easy to use, and you have quick access to anything you could possibly ask for. Everything is pretty much managed through the touchscreen here, but I'll tell you that it's really, really simple, even if you're not the most savvy with these types of systems. Below that, you have these massive volume knobs, and you'll see even some of your climate controls, including the toggle switches, are all quite large, and that's so you could actually use them with gloves. So if you're in snow and don't want to take off your gloves, you should be able to access a lot of these functions. Large buttons and toggle switches and even dials for your climate control are all easy to use. You also have this cool mineral finish that kind of goes across and supposed to look like rocks with a little cubby here on the passenger side and Toyota badging with more of that cool theme. Now below that, for your climate control, this is a dual zone climate control system. You have your heated and ventilated seats, and these are fully power adjustable here in the front with 4-way lumbar support. You also get a heated steering wheel, of which your heated steering wheel is actually wrapped in leather, just like your shifter for your soft touch points, and the seats are actually finished in that Softex, which is sort of Toyota's resistant material, which is supposed to be pretty easy to clean, but also won't get dirty that easily either. Taking a look below that, we do have our wireless charger, which of course is the Qi system. You also get some power outlets here on the side for USB Type-C and one hidden on the back here. Another cool feature, which is something that I love, is actually this mirror. Of course, it works like a regular mirror, but you can also pull the tab here, and now you have yourself a digital mirror. Now, this is a fantastic thing to have, especially if you have people in the back seat. You can see straight past them or even stuff in the back, and now it's much safer to use your rear view mirror. But if you don't like that type of stuff, that's no problem either. Above that, you also have your window controls. So by pushing this in, you can actually open and close the rear window so other folks can either put stuff in the back, or if you just want to fully open it up while you're off-roading, you can definitely do that. And then here's kind of a fun one. It's our pre-production prototype vehicle disclaimer. Now moving down below that to the shifter, here is the shifter for our automatic transmission with a manual sport shift mode. And the minute you put it in reverse, of course your cameras come up, and this is a predictive system that works absolutely wonderfully, in addition to all of your off-road cameras that you could ask for, including this trail cam, which not only shows you things like your various roll rates and all that, but it also shows you both sides of the vehicle, including what's right in front of the vehicle or behind it, depending on whether you're in drive or whether you're in going forward mode. So that's the kind of cool benefit of that. So you can see there's the forward camera now. Very cool. Put that back in park. You also have your brake hold, you have your electronic parking brake, and then we have more of the exciting controls down below. We have our stabilizer disconnect, and the whole point of this is to improve the articulation of the vehicle. So by disconnecting this, you can improve your ability to keep all 4 4 wheels on the ground. We have our electronic locking rear differential, those camera controls, which bring up all the options you could ask for in terms of what you can set up for the vehicle. Now, not only do you have the 360 degrees, but you also have all those off-road cameras I mentioned earlier. You do have your towing controls for your 5,800 pound towing capacity. And then over here, we have our 4-wheel drive controls. And this works quite interestingly. You actually push this button here over to the side, and then you can now shift into 4 high. And of course, that electronic transfer case shifts on the fly between whatever gears you can ask for. You also have some of your additional crawl control modes, including your towing modes and even your off-road controls. The drive modes are pretty self-explanatory, nothing too crazy here. You have an eco mode, which will limit your inputs for fuel efficiency. Normal driving is pretty self-explanatory. And then sport, which is going to try to hold the revs out, improve the shifting efficiency of the vehicle to stay in the power band. Now, moving on to the front here, this is the steering wheel, which feels right out of the other Toyota SUVs and truck models. Obviously, it's going to have a lot of your infotainment and adjustment controls, so you can set up the front driver display just how you want it. You also get your cruise controls and some of your mode settings for the radio and all that voice control settings as well. The digital display is pretty nice. It tries to simulate an analog display, and again, pretty intuitive, along with the optional ability to adjust whatever you like. Next, over here to the left of the driver, lots of cool settings. I love the door panels with the Trailhunter badging for the front, but this display here is incredibly fascinating. You do have the controls for your locking gas cap. You do have your auto lights, including your traction control settings, and you also have your auxiliary power and even your rear hatch. But these buttons here are incredibly cool. What you see here for these auxiliary switches, which are very tactile, very clicky, are actually these pre-wired running. So similar to what you'd find in a Ford Raptor. If you wanted to hook up some auxiliary lights or some auxiliary functions like a winch, you can actually do that, and you can pre-wire it to these switches, and then you can just touch the buttons at a moment notice and have power to that light or whatever the case is. Below that, we have the fog lights and light bar. Now, the functionality for these is unique. Now, first of all, for the fog lights, the headlights, of course, have to be on. Once you turn them on, the fog light will illuminate, assuming you have the fog lights on. And then from there, you simply just touch the fog light button, and that'll switch those rigid lights up front from white to orange. So that's a pretty easy, accessible way to do that. Now, the light bar gets a bit trickier. Now, light bars really aren't meant for road use. They're for off-road use only. And so what you have to do in order to use your light bar is first, the brights must be on, which you do by pushing this lever forward. And next, you can actually turn on your light bar. And when it's on, you'll see that this green part is now illuminated, and you have successfully activated your light bar. So there was a lot going on in this interior. I love that it feels simple and robust like the other Toyotas in the lineup, but you can customize a lot of stuff, and it has all of this physical button functionality for a lot of the controls. While the infotainment system itself is obviously digital, that's just the infotainment controls. And if you're using wireless CarPlay or Android Auto anyways, you're not really going to be interacting with this a whole lot as your phone messes with it, and you'll have the easy utility for that. But all of the other controls for the vehicle are all physical buttons, and you have the upgradability of the auxiliary switches, plus the power controls, including the power adjustment for the steering wheel that you can actually lower or raise or extend in and out depending on whatever you want. So really, it's a pretty nice interior. As far as the actual materials, yeah, you would have liked to see all leather for a $70,000 vehicle, but I think really where the money went was mostly to improving the actual features and functionality. So things like the 4-wheel drive system, adding things like all of the lights, and even pre-wiring the auxiliary switches. So that's where I think a lot of the money goes, and not so much into the actual interior materials for this truck. All right, let's punch it. Oh, the turbo. Oh man, that snorkel sounds incredible under load. And when you let off the throttle, you can immediately hear the turbo sort of blowing off and spooling down this. Incredible. That is honestly, that it might be the coolest thing about this truck, which is funny because it's not something that actually improves or changes performance other than the fact that it is a up high cold air intake. So that'll be better for water fording conditions and things like that. But wow, incredible. So anyways, what's it like to drive the new Trailhunter? Well, honestly, it feels like you would kind of expect. If you've had any experience with the last generation TRD Pro, it's a pretty similar experience in here. The only difference I would say is you have the newer powertrain and the newer suspension, which can really change itself a lot, right? Things like that disconnecting sway bar really change a lot in terms of the actual handling characteristics of the vehicle. So it doesn't really feel that compromised as a road car. It does obviously a little bit because it's so tall. You still have lots of forward and backwards body roll, which is to be expected from anything that's an off-road vehicle. You'll find that in trucks too, Raptors, etc. So that's to be expected here in the vehicle as well. Other than that, like I said, it feels rather impressive. It doesn't feel compromised as a road vehicle. If you were going to drive this regularly in town, in addition to taking it to the trails on the weekends, I don't think this would be ever considered too much or inhospitable for anything like that. So in that sense, it's really, really good. The particular features of the Trailhunter, obviously, it's just a smidge wider. You have to keep that in mind, but it feels very agile while you're driving it. You have no problem putting it into parking lanes because it's not absolutely massive. I know it looks massive from the outside, but it's quite easy to navigate the roads of any cities. Driving it here in Phoenix, I've never had any problems. And obviously with that entire camera system, if you want to make it easier to either pull into certain spots too, all the different camera modes you have just make it that much easier to drive. But honestly, it's a great driving experience. I would almost argue that because of that cold air intake, the turbo spool noise that you get and everything else, it is hilarious driving this, and that adds so much fun to the rest of the vehicle. It's not obnoxious or anything, and you know, if you're buying one of these vehicles, I assume you're an enthusiast anyway, and so you won't mind the fun noises that that system makes in the vehicle, whereas somebody who maybe just wants a commuter might not be interested in that. But this is an enthusiast vehicle. That's what it's for, so you should enjoy it. The steering and everything feels pretty good. It feels like you would expect from a Toyota, so it feels a lot like some of the other vehicles in the lineup, similar to the Land Cruiser, for example, and obviously same powertrain as well. So if you have driven the Land Cruiser with the iForce Max motor, same experience in here. There's a lot of power from that motor. The horsepower increase and the torque increase are significantly noticeable from the last generation, and obviously there's a little bit of a delay with the sort of change up and everything, and stomping on the pedal can have a slight change, but everything's quite nice. You know, I like the interactions. It feels like a modern Toyota, but everything feels very robust and confidence instilling. Even though this is a off-road model, you'd be surprised at kind of how quickly this can take some corners and stuff like that. It is a very impressive vehicle for what it is. It doesn't feel compromised as a road vehicle. It has some quirky characteristics, which are to be expected, but all in all, it's pretty good. The transmission shifts smoothly. I have no problem with that. The climate control is very, very good in terms of what's available. It's been getting quite hot here, and I've had no problem keeping myself cool with the ventilated seats and the AC. And the visibility is great. The A-pillars feel actually quite narrow, which is kind of less common these days for a vehicle with all these safety increases. The seats themselves are comfortable, and I just enjoy driving the vehicle. This is something that is super comfortable to drive. And these off-road vehicles in particular, one thing they're really great at is taking speed bumps. So if you live in a city, a neighborhood with lots of speed bumps or terrible roads, this will have no problem gliding right over them. And if anything, it'll keep you more comfortable, like that little sinkhole I just went over here in Phoenix. So that's what I think is so great about these vehicles. You know, this one in particular is so impressive because it doesn't feel compromised as a road vehicle. The minute you look at the suspension, you're like, this is a serious off-roader. So that part is really, really cool. And I think anybody that test drives these, especially again, if you're familiar with vehicles from the off-road Toyota lineup, you'll feel right at home. If anything, it feels slightly more impressive because they've managed to, so let's say, tighten it up. It doesn't feel like it wanders like other Toyota vehicles that I've driven in the past. This feels very direct to the point where you can really point it wherever you want and drive it. And like I said, the fact that it doesn't feel compromised makes it really usable. So there you have it. That's the end of the video. I do want to know what your thoughts are on the brand new Trailhunter. Would you rather have a Trailhunter or the TRD Pro? I mean, they're the same money. Is there anything on this that sells you over the other one, or would you rather have the other one because it's all Toyota? Let me know down below. I'm curious to know what you guys think. But with that, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. It would really help me out. I would really appreciate it. And of course, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.